Hi, my name is Veronica, and I want to talk about the 15 books that I read in the month of February. This was a really good reading month. I actually had a lot of dark romance reads this month, and that was not the plan. And I would say that I didn't really stick to my TBR, but let's go ahead and get into the 15 books that I read. The first book that I read in February is called Fatal Collision by Harley Beck. This is the start of a series called Dark Lanes. I read the first book, Fatal Collision, and the second book, Midnight Chase. I gave the first book a 3.75 and the second book a 3.25. This is about Jessica and Kane. And Jessica is a girl from the wrong side of the tracks that has a hard family life. Her mom is really sick and she is having to help take care of her. And her brother, that is older, is really absent within the family, and she just really feels like she has a lot of pressure on herself. And then Kane is a rich boy from the right side of the tracks who is the heir to this like billion-dollar empire. And the way that these two towns meet is they do not get along. They always have like beef going on. They really feel like something is wrong with these other sides, and these two end up meeting at a race. And the guy Kane is just basically really enamored with Jessica. He starts to really like her, and they start to start talking to each other. And Jessica is really struggling with being from the wrong side of the tracks and having interactions with a rich boy, let alone the heir of this empire. And just really is trying to do the right thing by her town and by her friends and by her brother. I really liked this first book. I thought it was so interesting, and even though it's set in high school or college, I really enjoyed it. I just thought it was such a good book. This is my first book that I read by Harley Beck, and I really loved her writing. I really loved the way that she described these two characters and a lot of the issues that they had going on at home and the ways that this was affecting them in life. And then the second book I obviously can't talk about, but I like this slightly less. I really loved the plot of the first book and a lot of the things that were going on. It was just really fast paced. In the second book, I feel like since it was really short, there really wasn't a lot talked about. And I know the third book, I think it comes out soon. So I feel like I wanted to continue the series. I thought it was really fast paced and interesting, and I really enjoyed it. Next, I read Iced Out by C.E. Ritchie. I gave this book a 3.5. This is about Oakley and Quinn. This is an MM romance, and these are two hockey players that meet in their senior year of high school. They end up having this huge blowout, and it essentially catapults them into this beef for the next 4 years, and they so happen to end up going to the same college. You fast forward about 4 years and they're in their senior year of college, and Oakley is this like golden boy that is revered in hockey, and his family has legends of hockey players. So his dad is a really famous hockey player and his uncle is a really famous hockey player. And then you have Quinn, who is the bad boy of hockey, who is just known for like constantly getting into fights. He would essentially almost be like the enforcer. He is just quick to really like go to anger and to attack people, and just the type of person that they're not really looking to do a lot. Um, it ends up happening up in the beginning of the story that Oakley is supposed to get captain, and he ends up not getting it. Quinn does, and Oakley doesn't really understand because he feels like he's done everything right. He's the stereotypical like perfect fit for this, and he is not understanding. And then the twist on this is that his uncle is actually the coach, and you would think that because of that maybe there'd be favoritism, and there's actually not. And so throughout the story, Quinn and Oakley are really working to start working together and start learning more about each other. And the way that they start kind of like having their interactions is they end up hooking up, and after they hook up, they end up winning a game. And if you know anything about hockey players or any of these hockey books, they're a superstitious bunch. And so when this happens, they propose that they continue to keep hooking up so that the team will win. And obviously that's like such a crazy concept, like that wouldn't actually happen, but they start to believe this. And I really love this story. This was my second MM romance, and I just thought it was such a good depiction of these two characters. That one, you have Oakley, who's open and outwardly gay, and you have Quinn that has never really thought of a guy in this manner and would not describe himself as gay. And I just really felt like the story was so sweet, and a lot of the things that were going on in it, I feel like were really true to like what a college player would be going through and what a guy would be going through like in these instances. And I just thought that the pace of the story was really good. Even though it was spicy, it was still really interesting and had a really good plot. And I might continue on in the series. I'm not sure. I know she just announced a fifth book, which sounds like it's going to be so good. I then read 4 novellas for Valentine's Day. These are a part of the Amazon Stories collection for Valentine's, and I read 4 out of the 6. So the first one I read was Accidentally Yours by Christina Lauren, Second Act Romance by Julie Soto, A Play for Love by Trisha. I don't know how you say her last name, but the images will be on screen. And then the last one is Death to Valentine's Day by Catherine Cowles. Um, all of these outside of Christina Lauren were the first time that I read a book by one of these authors, and my favorite out of them actually was the one by Christina Lauren, which was Accidentally Yours. So Accidentally Yours, I gave it 3.75, and this is about two neighbors that end up basically running to each other at their mailbox, and they end up having this interaction online where they don't realize that they're talking to each other. The girl basically ends up getting laid off from her marketing job. She ends up having to do freelance for this guy's company. And the way that this happened is that she somehow accidentally logged into their Zoom meeting, which I don't know how that's possible, and made commentary on the presentation that they were making for marketing. And the guy basically like sought her out and told her that like we want to hire you for freelance. We think that your opinions were really good, and like we don't really have people in this tech firm that understand marketing, as you can tell. And then the guy is the CEO of this tech company, and I really like this story. I'm not like the hugest fan of a lot of the book being communication through emails, but the way that Christina Lauren did this story, it was so intriguing, and I was so into it. I really liked the FMC. Funnily enough, her name was Veronica, if I'm remembering the correct book, and that's my name, and that was really that was really weird, but I loved her. I thought she was a great female character. I felt like she had pretty good growth within this book, which is hard to do, I feel like, in a novella, and the guy was just so sweet, and I really, really enjoyed this one. And then the second one was Second Act Romance, and these are about two people that one was in a play, and another is this like heartthrob doctor on a TV show, and they met a couple years ago on a play, and he ends up getting this girl's name wrong, and you come to find out that like this is how they don't end up connecting throughout the years that they have been apart. This girl goes to then put on a play, and she's the understudy of this like main character. Everybody gets food poisoning, so like this main character is out, and then the main male character of the show is going to be out, and like a lot of the players are out, and so he ends up getting recruited to come in and fill in for this position, and they meet up again. It was just so cute and just so goofy. Like, it was a novella, so I feel like it was hard to fit a lot into this play, and the fact that a lot of them got food poisoning and it kept talking about that, I will say I did not love that aspect, but I know that that was a way in order to get the main male character involved in the story. I thought that the main male character was really sweet. He was really endearing. He definitely gave heartthrob energy, and I really liked him. And then I Play for Love, I gave this a 3.75. This is about two characters that meet in college doing a play. They are in a class, and they're a group of like guys and girls, and what they're doing in the beginning of this class is drawing names, and they're gonna put on like these famous plays, so like Romeo and Juliet and like Hamlet and all these different ones. And this female main character is talking with her best friend in this class and is saying, I want anything but Romeo and Juliet, because Romeo and Juliet is one of the few plays that they have that has kissing. Well, the only play that has kissing, and she doesn't want to kiss some random guy. She was extremely funny. This girl literally had me cackling throughout the entire book. I loved her. She had such a good sense of humor, and she just was really outgoing, and I've really enjoyed that about her. But anyway, basically, she's saying she doesn't want Romeo and Juliet. She has this friend in the class, and the teacher's asking for volunteers. Her friend ends up actually having to go first and ends up getting Romeo and Juliet, and that was one of the plays that like neither of them wanted to do. And lo and behold, this guy comes like busting into the classroom and is speaking with the teacher, is basically asking to put on this play earlier because he's about to be going to off Broadway or Broadway, something like that, and he needs to take this test early. So because that happens, and the girl before her already had a partner, since she was the next person to go up, she has to then partner with him. Of course, she so happens to love this guy, not even love this guy, like this guy, and has had like the biggest crush on him from afar, and just thinks he's so dreamy and heartthrob. And essentially has to put this play on with him and kiss him, and it was just so funny, and just having her inner monologue literally made me laugh. And so you end there and you fast forward, I think it's about like 5 years, and she moves to, I want to say it's New York, and ends up running into this guy again, and it just goes from there. And I just truly thought that the story was so good. I really enjoyed it. Again, for this being such a short novella, I'm shocked by how much I enjoyed it. Like I said, it's the first book that I read by this author, and I loved her writing. I loved, again, the female main character, and just the banter within this book. I thought it was so, so good. The last one is Death to Valentine's Day. I sadly gave this a 2.75. Just hear me out on this. This is about a girl that ends up going to this party with one of her friends, a couple friends, and had just recently broke up with her boyfriend, or her boyfriend broke up with her because he cheated on her. A classic trope within these books, and I hate that. But he cheated on her, and she's going out to have fun with her friends. She ends up running into this guy's younger brother, and the younger brother's like always had this massive crush on her, but in her perspective, she has no idea why they lost contact. So between her ex, her, and the brother, their family like had a really, really close bond, and were always hanging out, and I can't remember if they grew up together or not, but they were all really close. And so when she loses touch with the brother, she doesn't understand why. And essentially why she lost touch with them, you learn, is because of how the brother was feeling. I enjoyed aspects of this book. I feel like honestly it was trying to do too much in the short span of time that it had. Again, this was a novella, so it was hard for her to fit in this like romantic suspense element, a little murder mystery. And I was initially excited about this because it was going to have romantic suspense and murder mystery. And again, this was my first Catherine Cowles book, and I just heard such good things about her. But I feel like for the size of it, it was just too much in too little time. And I feel like it was trying to have a romance and the romantic suspense plot line, and it just like couldn't really focus on it. And then I cannot remember what this man's nickname was for her. I feel like it was Birdie, and if it was, I'm so sorry. I did not like it. I was like, you literally can't come up with another nickname. Like, it has significance, but I personally did not enjoy that. Overall, I still want to definitely check out more Catherine Cowles books. This just, again, with it being so short, I feel like it was so hard to pack that in and really like get to all the things you needed to within that story. I next picked up Chokehold by Lee Rivers and Harley Beck. I gave this book a 4.25. This book was literally so, so, so good. This was my third MM romance, and this is Step Brothers, but hear me out, please. MM romance, and basically you have Cole and Blaze. Cole is older, Blaze is a little bit younger, and their parents end up marrying like a couple years ago. Cole is essentially like the bad boy. The stepdad really doesn't like him, and he essentially basically judges him based on how Cole's dad treated him. And Blaze is the son of this guy, and he's like the golden boy. He can do no wrong. He's, you know, he's a all-star athlete, like all these things. And so Cole really does not like Blaze, and Blaze is like obsessed with Cole, which I just found so funny. And basically how this book starts out is these two are at a party. They're hanging out with Cole's friends, and they all decide that they're going to basically do like a mask hunt. So you'll have people that have masks, and you'll have people, or they all have masks, and you'll have people that are runners and people that are chasers, I guess. So Cole was a chaser, Blaze was a runner, and then they're essentially trying to like take these people out. It's supposed to be all in fun and games. And the way that this started out, it's just, if you can even inference what you think would happen in this, it happens in the beginning. And I just really love this. I felt like their dynamic was so good. I really, really love that you can tell between these two characters which author wrote which person. And I feel like having just read like a Harley Beck book and had previously read Lee Rivers books, being able to easily discern which author was in the voice of each of these characters was so cool. And I feel like it just flowed so seamlessly with it being two authors, and I really, really love the story. Again, like I said, I love their dynamic. I love that there was like a little mental health rep within this, and just a character, Cole, that is really struggling with his home life, or his previous home life, and just really trying to come to terms with that. And Blaze, that as being like viewed as a golden boy, but has a secret about like not really being that way, and feeling like he can't fully express himself. And I just love that these characters throughout the story are just there for each other and are really endearing and just really have a lot of growth within the story. I just thought this was so, so good. And then the epilogue at the end of this was so cute. I wish this was not a standalone. Like, it doesn't make sense for them to have another book, but I just thought this was so good, and I really, really enjoyed it. I then picked up Endless Anger by Sav R. Miller. I gave this book a 3-star. This is the first book in a spinoff of the like Hades and Persephone story. So like I think that's Promises and Pomegranates, and this is one of the kids is their children. So this is about Lucy and Asher, and they essentially grow up together because their parents are such good friends. They end up being best friends, and in the beginning of the story, you're basically following them in their adolescence and seeing them kind of navigate like being a younger preteen, I think at this point. But seeing them navigate that, and you find out pretty early on that Asher has this major crush on Lucy. He thinks she's so sweet, and he just loves protecting her, and he doesn't want to ruin their friendship because, again, of how close their families are, and he can't interpret whether or not Lucy feels the same about him. They end up going to this party like later on, and I don't want to give it away, but something happens. They end up like splitting for 3 years, and they essentially drift apart. So you'll fast forward, and then they're in college. They're at this notorious college that is like got this crazy dark academia backdrop, which I really, really enjoyed. And you're just kind of seeing them navigate this like mystery that's going on within the school. The school is really off, and you can feel that through Sav R. Miller's writing, as well as the like depiction of it that she displays. I thought that was really, really good. Personally, I thought that this book was just okay. I really wanted more of the mystery, and I wanted that to be talked about faster, and I just feel like it took too long to like get to the conclusion of that. And one of the reasons it's called Endless Anger is because Asher has like major anger issues, and is trying to kind of like navigate dealing with these issues. And then later on, like Lucy kind of starts having a little bit of anger towards Asher. But I really did like these two characters' dynamic. I thought they were really good. I thought that it made a lot of sense as to why they had the issues that they did, because they obviously were not talking about their feelings, and I enjoyed it. I have no idea if I'll continue this series, but I might pick up something else by Sav R. Miller. I really, really liked her writing. I then picked up Blood on My Monster. I gave this a 3.75, and I'm going to preface this by saying I read the entire Monster trilogy in the month of February. That was not the goal. This was actually on my February TBR, so I picked it up, and I really enjoyed it. And then the next two, they just kept ending on cliffhangers that I had to pick up the next. So Blood on My Monster, like I said, I gave it 3.75. Lies in My Monster, I gave it 3.25. And Heart of My Monster, I gave it 3.5. But I'll only talk about the plot of this first book. So this is about Sasha and Kirill, and Sasha is a female that ends up enlisting in the military as a male. And you come to find out that the reason she's doing this is because her entire family was assassinated, and she thinks that somebody within the military is the person that put the hit out on her family, and she's trying to infiltrate the military to essentially figure out who this person is, get close to them, and she ends up meeting Kirill, who is a part of this like special ops military team. He's the leader of it, and she ends up getting recruited onto his team. They kind of get segregated from the rest of the military, and they're basically going on like these specialized missions that only like their team handles. And I really, really enjoyed this book. I thought the plot of this book was so good. This is actually a mafia romance, but again, it starts out in the military. About halfway-ish through, you get into the mafia aspect of it, and I thought that that was just so good. I really, really like Sasha as a female character. I feel like throughout the series, she comes into her own and becomes a strong female character that really doesn't take stuff from people and starts really finding her voice. And then Kirill was just unhinged, but like in the best way. I don't really know how to explain it, because I would by far not say that he's my favorite Rena Camp man, but I would say that I feel like him and Sasha made a lot of sense, and I feel like he really was there for her and tried to treat her the way that he could with the circumstances that he had. So he grew up with like a really, really bad home life, and I feel like that really shaped him into the person that he was, and I feel like through that, that's the reason he treated her the way that he did. But comes to kind of find out that like, hey, I can't treat this person like an object. She is a person. I really care about her, and I need to just do the right thing. And I enjoyed this. I heard that the series was really underrated, and I would say Again, the first book was actually my favorite. I really liked it. The second book was okay. The third book was pretty interesting. Um, I enjoyed it. I really loved like the side characters in this story. I thought that they were so good. There's a character in this, I won't say his name, but he was so funny. He kind of gave me like Nikolai vibes, Seth from Zodiac Academy. I just thought he was freaking hilarious, and I wish he had a book. He sadly doesn't. If she wrote a book about him, I would be picking that up literally tomorrow. I then picked up Gloves Off by Stephanie Archer. This is the fourth book in the Vancouver Storm series. I can't remember if I said, but I gave this a 4.25. This is about Alexi and Georgia. Georgia is like a physical therapist slash doctor on this hockey team, and Alexi is a defender on this team. The way that this book starts out, or if you have read any of these other interconnected standalones in these books, I mean, in this series, these two do not like each other. And when I say they do not like each other, I mean like they cannot stand each other. And throughout the other books, they have this like banter going back and forth where he is essentially calling her kind of like a princess and is poking fun at her liking to wear heels and liking to dress up and thinks that she's this like rich, stuck up girl. And he is a little bit older on this hockey team, and it's getting kind of towards that retirement age, and she kind of point out how much older he is and within this team. So anyway, this story is about, again, Alexi and Georgia, and what happens in the beginning of the story is Alexi is from Russia. He needs to get a green card, not a green card, he needs to get, I don't know what it's called for Canada. I'm going to be so honest, I'm sorry. But whatever it is in order to stay within Canada. But he needs this in order to stay within the country. And the only way he can do this is by being in a marriage to a citizen of Canada. That's where Georgia comes in. She is from Canada. And he basically propositions her to marry him. So like a marriage of convenience. And then Georgia is also marrying him for her own reasons. I really, really like this book. I thought that the banter in this was so good. I thought that the, like, I wouldn't say hate, I would say dislike to friends to lovers was really, really good. I feel like Stephanie Archer did such a good job in keeping the banter and the dislike through a good portion of the story, and really having these characters realize that they both misinterpreted the other person. They both had notions of each other that were not true, that they pushed onto the other person, and they learned pretty quickly that they were both wrong about it. And I love the forced proximity of it all. I thought it's so good. I love the little cameos of like the previous couples from the story, and I thoroughly enjoyed this. I'm not really a marriage of convenience person, but the way she wrote the story, the banter between these two characters, their dynamic, the way that they grow within this book, the character development, especially of Alexi, the character development of him was so good. Like, this guy yearns, he grovels, he literally is just starting to realize that, like, he misjudged this girl harshly based on like a previous relationship he had. It ended really badly, and the girl was rich, and he perceives, you know, Georgia as being rich, and you'll find out that like what he's thinking is not true. But I just thought this was so good. I need to pick up the last book in this series. I am just so excited for it. I then listened to We Who Will Die by Stasia Stark. I gave this book a 3.5. I highly recommend that if you ever read a Stasia Stark book that you listen to it. The female narrator for this does such a good job of transporting you into the world and really making you see the atmosphere so well. But this is about Arvel, and Arvel lives in a city where I wouldn't say it's like corrupt, but they don't have a lot of like resources, and they use these, I think they're like stones, in order to power like electricity and water and all these things. And she basically starts out as this like bodyguard for like richer people, and is basically doing this because she's raising her two younger twin brothers. Her mom is passed, her dad's not in the picture, or he passed, I can't actually remember, but basically both of her parents gone, and she's raising her two younger brothers. One of her brothers has a lung condition or an ailment, and she is basically working so she can consistently get these tonics for him. The way that this starts out is that she's going to get a tonic for her brother. All these nearby like stores do not have this tonic in stock, and he's out of it. He like desperately needs it. And come to find out, like, they're all out of stock, and the only place that she can get it is like a town that's further away. But she goes back home that night. There is this mysterious guy standing outside of her apartment or dwelling, and he basically propositions her to infiltrate the empire and kill the emperor. And she, of course, naturally says no, but then he presents to her this tonic that she needs for her brother, and she just feels like she can't tell him no because this is really important to her sibling. Um, and basically, again, what the object of this is from this character is to infiltrate the castle, kill the emperor, and they're competing in these trials called, I want to say it's called the Sundering. And it's basically these like champions that go in, and if they get past these 3 trials, they become a part of the like emperor's elite guards and get to essentially guard him. And I really enjoyed the story. I thought that Arvel was a really strong female main character. I really enjoyed her character growth within this. I thought that you could really tell that even though she was doing this for her brothers, she had this tenacity that kept pushing her and that kept making her fight back and was not letting her like take literally anything lying down. I thought that she was just really dynamic and such a really interesting female main character to follow. I enjoyed the plot of this book. My favorite part of this was these are like Roman cathedral style calls, Roman cathedrals, Roman cathedral style trials. Try saying that 3 times fast. Like set in a coliseum, and I really, really love that. I thought that that was such an interesting take on trials. I love that they like even created creatures like I think I want to say it was like griffins and stuff, and it was just such a cool concept. I really love what she did with the story. The reason that it got a 3.5 is I felt like parts of the story were slow, and when it wasn't really revolving around the trial, I just found myself, I wouldn't say not caring, but kind of losing a little bit of interest within it. If it wasn't really focusing on this plot of the trials and this like mystery aspect that was going on throughout the book, I was kind of like checking out a little bit. But once the trials came in, I was locked in. The way this book ended, I'm just like, I want the next book. I really feel like I want to pick this up whenever it comes out, which I saw that it comes out in January of 2027. That is actually crazy. That is crazy. I'm just like, come on, why? Why is it going to take so long? But at the same time, I understand you want to really take your time writing a book, and I thoroughly enjoyed it. I really love this book by Saucia Stark. And the last book I read in the month of February was Half City by Kate Golden. This is the, I think they're called Allurial special edition of it, and I just think it's so pretty, and it really, I feel like, depicts this book really well. This is about Viv and Reed, and Viv is a demon hunter, and Reed is a demon. And Viv is 21 years old, and she lives in this town called Asteria, and I feel like I just said that the exact same way. But she basically is living there, and she works in this museum. She essentially is like working in this museum during the day, and at night she's slaying demons or any other like creatures like werewolves, vampires. And in the beginning of the story, she is heading to her job at this museum and finds this demon on the train and just like takes him out. I was like, whoa, that is a heck of a way to start a story. And then she feels like this presence watching her. She's not sure like who it is, but she can't find them. She goes home, and when she goes back out to start demon hunting, this guy like attacks her, and she's like really thrown off. She realizes it's a demon, and the demon essentially propositions her to go to this school where demon hunters train in order to become better and like hone in their powers and learn how to fight and like work together with other demon hunters. And so the person that recruits her, his name is Reed. He is a demon, but he works at this school as a professor doing like combat training. Viv is really reluctant to go to the school because she's always been alone. She's always hunted by herself, and she didn't even know that this school existed. I'm trying to remember what the name of the school was. Harker. And she's never heard of it, and her dad was actually a demon hunter, and she's wondering why her dad never told her about like this school. She again is really reluctant to do it. She ends up doing it, and she goes there and she meets quite a few people. She starts learning a lot of things about like her lineage and demon hunters and just all the things that she never really knew about it. And I thoroughly enjoyed the story. Even though I gave this a 3.5, that is really because parts of the story I feel like kind of dragged. I really enjoyed the plot. I thought that this was such a cool concept. I love the backdrop of the school. It just gave kind of like winter castle gothic like school vibes. I just thought it was so cool. And Viv was like a really complex character. I really felt like she had a lot of things going on in her life and was really trying to find herself and come to terms with like being a demon hunter and really just trying to accept herself. She also doesn't have the best relationship with her mom and her sister, and that is a topic that is heavily explored within this book. I enjoy this. There's also like a mystery subplot within this book that I thoroughly enjoyed. That was like one of my favorite parts of this book. I thought that really added a lot to this book. And then the way that this book ended, I kid you not, just felt like it left off in the middle of a sentence or a chapter. And I was just like, what was that? Why? Where's the next page? Where's the rest of it? I thought that this was so good. I enjoyed it, and I for sure am picking up the next book when Kate Golden comes out with it. And then the last two books that I DNF'd this month, I hate DNFing books. Um, One was on my February TBR, and another was one that I was like really excited about as a part of the series. But the first one is called Slash Your Pass, and this is basically about a girl and a guy that go to the same college. This person ends up getting brutally murdered on campus, and the girl's friend gets blamed for killing him. She essentially gets ostracized from this college and has to leave. And then you fast forward, I want to say it's about a year later, and the female main character and the main male character haven't talked in a year. The female main character is coming back to the school because her sister also goes there. She's in a sorority, and she had gotten this like weird letter from somebody that was essentially like saying they were targeting her sister, and she had to make sure that her sister was okay because her sister hadn't been in contact with her recently. And so that's why she's on campus. And then she bumps into this guy, and the guy is like basically trying to figure out like why she's there, why they haven't talked in a long time. She tells him like what's going on, and he said, that's so weird, like I am also getting these strange letters from this anonymous person. And the reason why I DNF this is, one, the female main character was so freaking annoying. It's only in her POV, so that really didn't help. I felt like she just really had a lot of issues with the main male character, and it was all in a misunderstanding. And for me personally, I hate the trope of misunderstanding, miscommunication, especially. And they have this huge issue, or this issue that's going on in the beginning of the story, that once they meet up again and they're like at this party hanging out, they go to talk about it, and I kid you not, it took like 15 pages to resolve this issue that could have been resolved in one page, and it wasn't. And I said, nope, I gotta DNF it. You're moving too slow for me. Where's the mystery aspect of this book outside of you having these letters? Why is it taking you 15 pages to resolve this issue that should not have taken that long? So it just took me out of the book. This was such a cool concept though, so just because I didn't like it, I still recommend checking it out. I feel like it had a really interesting plot. And then the second book that I DNF'd, oh, I hate this because I love the first book, Dolls and Daggers, but the second book is called Stilettos and, hold on, Stilettos and Daggers. And I DNF'd this about halfway through. This is about two side characters from the first story, and if you've read the first story, they have such an interesting dynamic, and when I heard that they had a book, I was literally like, I am so excited for this. Y'all have such crazy banter, such an interesting story, and I am so excited to see like where your story is going to go. I started this book, and the reason I DNF'd it is, one, it was extremely cringy, and one thing about me is it takes a lot for me to be icked out, cringed out in a book. For me to mention it, that's also a feat. Like, I hardly ever do this. And I found myself, like, every other page, cringing. And just the things that they were saying and the way that they were talking to each other, I was just like, no, you're not doing it for me. And then there's a thing that happens within the story that, I'm not going to spoil it, but that happens within the story that I just feel like was not necessary. And it was a way to essentially bring the characters together. And I did not like that being used as a device to essentially bring them together. The female main character has like a lot of trauma, and the main male character is a cop, And again, I just really was excited for this book. I'm really disappointed that I didn't like it as much as I anticipated. Um, I I really hate that. But I would say if you've read Dolls and Daggers, just because I didn't like this book, or even if you're interested in this book, I would still check it out because I feel like it did still have an interesting concept, and I feel like with what was going on within the story, the way that it ends is probably going to be crazy. But again, for me personally, with me being cringed out and the thing that was keeping them together, I really didn't enjoy it. So yeah, those were the 15 books and 2 DNFs I had this month. I had a really good reading month. I read a ton of dark romance, like way, way, way more than I expected. And read a trilogy. I did not expect that literally at all. I just planned to pick up Blood on My Monster, but I loved it. I thought that these were so good. They were quick and bingeable. And I listened to quite a few audiobooks that really helped me a lot. I listened to um, or I did 2 fantasy books, which I was trying to get back in my fantasy era. I don't know what's going on. I've been really, really struggling to pick them up. I've just been gravitating towards dark romance, and I'm like, you need to go back to your roots of romance and fantasy because that's what you love. And I feel like having read Half City and We Who Will Die really helped me be reinvigorated into wanting to pick up fantasy. And actually, for my March TBR, I have a couple fantasy books on there, so I'm really, really excited for that. And if you stay to the end of this video, I really appreciate you watching. I'd love to know how many books you read in the month of February, what your favorite book was of February, what's on your March TBR, and